Creo Mark 1 review. The Creo Mark 1, designed in Bengaluru, promises to be a new phone every month. When you think of it, that's a somewhat strange premise. The idea of a phone that gets better over time is appealing, but we'd prefer a really good phone today, please. We spent a lot of time with the Creo Mark 1, which launched on April 13th, including a month in its beta testing program, and in this time, we've come away both impressed with the output of the very young company behind it, but also wishing things were just a little bit better. What's annoying about the Creo Mark 1 is how close it gets to being a really good phone. However, it falls just a little short at some crucial points, and that ends up being much more frustrating than a generally mediocre phone would have been. The company behind the Mark 1 has previously made only two other products, the Chromecast-like Teewe dongle, and its successor, the Teewe. We thought both those products showed promise but fell short of the established competition, Google's Chromecast, and with the case of the Creo Mark 1, it feels the same. Creo has decided to launch the Mark 1 at the budget flagship price of Rs. 20,000, and so it faces tough competition. Read on to see how it measures up. The Creo Mark 1 looks a lot like the Sony's Xperia Z3, it has similar rounded edges on an otherwise brick-like shape, and features round chrome buttons on the right. Unlike the Xperia Z3, this phone lacks waterproofing and dustproofing, and it's also a fairly chunky phone for 2016. That's not necessarily a drawback. We've been complaining that as phones get thinner, they're less comfortable to hold, but the 5.5-inch display is also pretty broad, with slightly thick side borders. The Mark 1 is closer in size to a typical phablet, which may or may not appeal to you. The design is otherwise pretty standard for a smartphone. The front is a glossy slab, with three capacitive buttons near the bottom. The functions of the buttons can be customized in the Settings app, which is why they don't have specific icons. All three are just plain circles. There's the front camera near the top, and circular power and volume buttons on the right. The left is plain, with two trays near the top, the first for a nano SIM or microSD card, and the second for a micro SIM. Lower down on the left, there's space where you can have up to 40 characters of text, such as your name or any message, engraved while buying the device. The bottom has the micro USB charging port, while the 3.5mm audio socket is on top. You have the primary camera and flash in the top left corner of the rear, with a minimal and sleek Creo logo near the middle. The result looks good. It isn't innovative or path-breaking, but it isn't in your face either, and has a sense of style. What's more, the phone feels well put together. There are no sharp seams or edges, and no parts that don't feel fitted slickly. The glass front and back collect fingerprints and let the phone slide a little too much when you place it on a table, but they make the phone feel really good to hold, and help sell the idea that it's a premium device. This extends to the display as well. The 5.5-inch screen is bright and colorful, without feeling oversaturated. It's a nice display to watch videos on, particularly considering the QHD 1440 by 2560 resolution. However, that doesn't come without downsides either, as we'll get to in the performance section. Creo's goal of giving you a new phone every month boils down to the promise of delivering monthly firmware updates which bring in features suggested by the community of users. It's a very good goal to hear about, considering how many phone makers seem to think that you should be happy with the software that comes out of the box and never expect any updates. In terms of hardware, the Mark 1 packs a 1.95 GHz octa-core MediaTek Helio X10 SoC, along with 3 GB of RAM, and 32 GB of storage that can be expanded by up to 128 GB if you're willing to forego a second SIM. The phone has a 21-megapixel rear camera and an 8-megapixel front camera. It's powered by a 3100 mAh battery. All of this is pretty standard on paper these days. There's nothing very eye-catching about the spec sheet other than the QHD display, but Creo's focus has been on software, a custom Android skin it calls Fuel OS. Fuel OS looks and feels more or less like stock Android. It's running on top of Android 5.1.1, but it comes with a whole range of tweaks that are pretty interesting. For instance, the default SMS app shows your messages sorted into categories, separating ones sent by people and bulk messages sent by businesses, originating from addresses that start with VM/DZ and so on. Business updates are further categorized as important, for things such as delivery and bill updates, or others. It's a small tweak, but a very welcome one that makes the SMS inbox far less cluttered and much more useful. There's a security feature that alerts you if a new SIM card is inserted into your Mark 1, allowing you to track it even if it isn't connected to the internet, which sounds really helpful, at least for peace of mind. Then there's Sense, a full-fledged local search function that lets you find anything in your phone, whether it's a setting buried deep inside a menu, or a file you've downloaded and forgotten about. The last major feature is Echo, a built-in answering machine which stores messages locally so it works even without an internet connection. These are all tweaks that could be accomplished with third-party apps quite easily, but together they speak to Creo's overall vision of a phone which comes with all the bells and whistles you might want, saving you the trouble of looking for extras. That doesn't mean that all of these features are perfect yet, though. For example, Echo is not a substitute for voicemail, it will only help you in the